The twin suns of Kepler 442 blazed mercilessly overhead as Marcus Thorne guided his aging transport across the crystalline desert. Sweat stained his work shirt despite the vehicle's struggling climate system. Another repair he couldn't afford. 6 months since Alana's death from the wasting plague, and everything seemed determined to follow her into the grave. Just hold together a little longer, he muttered to the console, giving it a frustrated tap. The engine coughed, but continued its labored rhythm. He'd come to this desolate region, searching for salvageable tech from old mining operations. Anything to supplement the meager income from their moisture farm. With 3 children depending on him, Marcus couldn't afford to be picky about how he earned credits. Cresting a rocky ridge, he killed the engine and reached for his surveying equipment. The silence of the wasteland pressed against him like a physical weight. Then he heard its voices carrying on the thin air, speaking in the musical tones of the Aari language. Marcus grabbed his binoculars and peered over the ridge. Below, a circle of tall, ivory-skinned figures surrounded a shallow depression in the sand. The Xiari were striking beings, their alabaster skin marked with intricate tattoos that denoted clan and status. But what made his blood run cold was what lay in the center of their circle. A female Xiari had been buried up to her neck in the burning sand, only her head visible above the surface. Even from this distance, Marcus could see the terror in her dark eyes as she struggled weakly against her sandy prison. Her captors spoke in ceremonial tones before departing in their sleek hovercrafts, leaving her to die under the merciless suns. Marcus lowered the binoculars, his hands shaking. He knew enough about Xiari customs to understand what he'd witnessed a ritual execution for some grave social transgression. The desert scavengers would emerge at nightfall to finish what the heat had started. "Not my problem," he whispered, but the words felt hollow. He had 3 kids waiting at home who needed their only remaining parent. Getting involved with Xiari justice would be suicide, but as he prepared to leave, the woman's head turned toward his position. Their eyes met across the distance, and Marcus saw something that cut through his rational, caution-desperate hope, mixed with resigned dignity. She wasn't begging, just acknowledging his presence with the quiet grace of someone facing death. Elena's voice seemed to whisper in his mind, "Some things are worth the risk, Marcus. Some things define who we are." "Damn it all," he muttered. Starting the engine, the transport lurched down the slope toward his homestead. But Marcus's mind was already forming plans. He needed supplies, water, medical kit, digging tools, maybe his old service blaster. The Xiari would be long gone by now, but desert predators would start prowling soon after sunset. His modest dome-shaped home appeared on the horizon, solar collectors glinting in the harsh light. Inside, 10-year-old Emma was helping 8-year-old Jake with his learning tablets, while 6-year-old Sophie napped on the worn couch, her breathing slightly labored. The child had been sickly since birth, another worry that kept Marcus awake at nights. "Dad!" Emma looked up with bright green eyes, Elena's eyes. "You're back early. Did you find anything good?" "Maybe," Marcus said, forcing casualness into his voice. "Listen, I need to go out again for a while. Something important came up." Jake frowned. "But you promised to help with the hydroponics tonight." "I know, buddy." "This can't wait." Marcus was already gathering supplies, checking his blaster's charge. "I need you 3 to stay here. Keep the doors locked and don't answer to anyone but me." "Understand?" Emma studied him with the unsettling perception of a child who'd grown up too fast. "Is it dangerous?" Marcus paused in his preparations. "It might be. That's why you're staying put." As he headed for the door, he missed the meaningful glance Emma exchanged with her younger siblings. He also failed to notice 3 small figures slipping through the transport's maintenance hatch while he performed his pre-flight checks. The suns were touching the horizon when Marcus returned to the execution site. He landed his transport at a safe distance and approached on foot, blaster ready. The woman's eyes fluttered open as his shadow fell across her face. Sand had begun to drift over her features, and her lips were cracked from dehydration. "Human," she whispered, her accented voice barely audible. "Why risk yourself for one already condemned?" Marcus knelt and began digging with a collapsible shovel, working methodically around her buried form. "Because everyone deserves a chance," he replied simply, her eyes a deep amber that seemed to shift in the fading light widened with something like wonder. "You do not know my crimes." "Don't care," Marcus grunted, digging faster as distant howls began echoing across the desert. The sand was packed tight, each shovelful requiring effort. "Whatever you did, you don't deserve to die like this." As he worked, she studied his weathered face. "I am Zara Veltani of the Sunset Cliffs clan. What they call you, human who shows mercy to strangers." "Marcus Thorn," he replied, sweat beading on his forehead. "And I'm not exactly a stranger to injustice." When he finally freed her, Zara was too weak to stand. Her unclothed form was tall and willowy, covered in the intricate spiral tattoos that marked her clan lineage. Marcus wrapped her in his thermal blanket and lifted her carefully. "I have you," he said, surprised by how light she felt despite her height. The howls were growing closer as Marcus carried her back to his transport. He sealed the door behind them just as the first shadowy shapes appeared on the ridge. "We made it," he breathed, settling her onto the small medical bunk. "Daddy?" Marcus spun around, his heart nearly stopping. 3 blonde heads peered around a storage container. "What in blazes are you 3 doing here?" he demanded, then immediately softened his tone as Sophie's lower lip began to tremble. "We wanted to help," Emma said defiantly. "You looked scared when you left." Zara's gaze moved between Marcus and the children, wonder and confusion mixing in her expression. "These are your offspring?" "My daughters and son," Marcus confirmed, running his hand through his hair in frustration. "Who were supposed to be safely at home?" Jake approached cautiously, studying the alien woman with open curiosity. "Why is her skin white like that? And why do you have those drawings?" Before Marcus could intervene, the ship's proximity sensors blared. On the view screen, lights appeared on the Horizon JRE vehicles, heading directly toward them. "Everyone strap in," Marcus ordered, diving for the pilot's seat. "We're leaving. Now." As the engines roared to life, Zara's eyes met his in the console's reflection. "You have endangered your children for me," she said, her voice stronger now. "Why would you do such a thing?" Marcus engaged the throttles, sending the ship climbing rapidly toward space. "That's a conversation for when we're not running from executioners." The ship broke atmosphere, stars replacing the burning sky of Kepler 442. Only then did Marcus allow himself to breathe. He'd just committed a serious crime against the dominant species of their sector, with his children aboard and a condemned fugitive in his custody. But, looking back at the rescued woman, now being offered water by his daughters, Marcus couldn't bring himself to regret the choice. Elena had always said that mercy was what separated civilization from barbarism. Some risks, he realized, were worth taking. The navigation computer hummed softly as Marcus plotted their course to the asteroid field surrounding Haven Station. His weathered hands moved with practiced precision, though tension knotted his shoulders. Behind him, his children had formed a protective circle around Zara, their natural curiosity overcoming any fear of the alien woman. "Daddy, she's shivering," Sophie whispered, her small hand gently touching Zara's arm. Marcus glanced back to see the Jari woman wrapped in his thermal blanket, her ivory skin pale even by her species standards. The stress of her ordeal was taking its toll. "There's some soup in the emergency rations," he told Emma. "Heat it up for her, will you?" As his eldest daughter bustled about with maternal efficiency that reminded him painfully of Elena, Marcus focused on their approach to Haven Station. The sprawling structure looked like a metallic spider web stretched between 3 large asteroids, its docking arms extending to accommodate vessels of various sizes and origins. "Is that where we're going?" Jake asked, pressing his face against the viewport. "For now," Marcus replied. "It's neutral territory. No single government controls it." Zara stirred, accepting the bowl of soup Emma offered with a grateful nod. "You show such kindness to a condemned stranger," she said, her voice still weak but clearer. "Among my people, this would be unusual." "We're not your people," Emma said matter-of-factly, settling beside her. "Dad says we judge folks by their actions, not their origins." A shadow crossed Zara's face. "If only my own kind shared such wisdom." Marcus received docking clearance and guided them into Bay 94, a smaller berth tucked away from the main commercial areas. As the ship settled onto its landing struts, he turned to address his passengers. "We need to disguise you," he told Zara. "I have some old clothes that might fit, and a hooded cloak. Keep your head down and stay close to us." "I cannot ask you to risk more danger for my sake," Zara protested, struggling to sit up straighter. "You're not asking," Marcus replied firmly. "I'm offering. One night at Haven, we'll get supplies, rest, and figure out our next move." Zara studied his face for a long moment, something shifting in her amber eyes. "One night," she agreed quietly. Marcus helped her into Elena's old clothes, too small for Zara's tall frame, but serviceable when combined with the concealing cloak. With the hood pulled low and her distinctive tattoos hidden, she could pass for any number of humanoid species from a distance. Haven Station's main concourse buzzed with activity. Traders from a dozen worlds hawked their wares, while travelers of every description hurried between docking bays and commercial sectors. The air thrummed with multilingual chatter and the subtle vibration of massive life support systems. Marcus kept a protective arm around Zara, guiding her through the crowd toward the residential quarter. His children flanked them, wide-eyed at the diversity surrounding them, but obedient to his earlier instructions about staying close. They'd almost reached the residential sector when a familiar voice called out, "Marcus Thorne." "Well, I'll be damned." Marcus turned to see Nolan Cross approaching, a grizzled human trader he dealt with occasionally. The man's weathered face broke into a grin as he clapped Marcus on the shoulder. "Haven't seen you in months, friend. Heard about Elena. Damn shame." Nolan's expression grew sympathetic. "These your kids?" "They've grown since last time." "Nolan," Marcus nodded carefully, aware of Zara tensing beside him. "Just passing through. Need to get the children settled." Of course. Nolan's eyes flicked curiously to the hooded figure at Marcus's side. "New traveling companion?" "Family friend," Marcus replied shortly. "If you'll excuse us, ... Sure thing. Hey, word of warning though. There's been some Jayari officials asking questions around the station. Something about a dangerous fugitive. You haven't seen anything unusual, have you?" Marcus felt Zara's hand tighten on his arm. "Can't say that I have." "Thanks for the heads up." They parted ways, but Marcus noticed Nolan watching them as they disappeared into the residential sector. He secured a modest room at the sector's far-end cramped quarters with a sleeping alcove, small living area, and basic refresher unit, but it offered the privacy they desperately needed. Finally, he breathed, sealing the door behind them. Zara immediately moved to the small viewport, pulling back her hood to reveal the intricate tattoos adorning her neck and scalp. In the station's artificial light, her ivory skin seemed to glow with an inner radiance that made Marcus's breath catch. "You continue to endanger yourself and your family for me," she said softly, not turning from the window. "I must know why." Marcus began setting up sleeping arrangements while his children explored their temporary quarters. "Let's just say I've seen enough injustice to recognize it when I encounter it. But surely my crimes merit punishment," Zara persisted. "Among the Jayari, Burial in the desert is reserved for the most serious transgressions. Emma looked up from arranging her stuffed animal on one of the beds. What did you do that was so bad? Zara turned from the viewport, her amber eyes reflecting deep pain. I refused to marry the man my father chose for me. The simple statement hung in the air like a physical presence. Marcus stared at her, processing the implications. They tried to execute you for refusing an arranged marriage? He asked incredulously. Not just any marriage, Zara explained, settling carefully on the edge of a chair. Prince Kael Jitar of the Northern Territories. My father, Elder Council member Theron Valtani, negotiated the union to secure mining rights for our clan. When I refused ... double quotes, she shrugged eloquently. That's horrible, Sophie exclaimed with the absolute moral certainty of a 6-year-old. You should marry whoever you want. Despite everything, Zara smiled the first genuine smile Marcus had seen from her. Your offspring possess great wisdom, Marcus Thorne. They get that from their mother, he replied, his voice growing soft with memory. Before Zara could respond, urgent knocking interrupted them. Marcus's hand moved instinctively to his concealed blaster as he approached the door. Who is it? Station security, came a crisp voice. Routine check. We're looking for any suspicious activity or unauthorized passengers. Marcus's blood chilled. He signaled for silence and moved Zara behind a privacy screen in the sleeping alcove. Give me a moment, he called, quickly mussing the bedding to suggest they'd been resting. He opened the door to find a human security officer flanked by a tall Jerry in ornate robes. The alien's golden eyes swept the visible portions of the room with predatory intensity. Evening, citizens, the human officer said politely. I'm Officer Chun. This is Captain Voss of the JRE delegation. We're conducting standard checks on all recent arrivals. May we come in? My children are sleeping, Marcus replied carefully. Is there a problem? Captain Voss stepped forward, his melodious voice carrying subtle menace. We seek a dangerous criminal who may be hiding among your kind. A female of my species, tall, with clan markings of the Sunset Cliffs. Very dangerous to harbor such a fugitive. I haven't seen anyone matching that description, Marcus lied smoothly. We arrived just a few hours ago from the outer settlements. The Jiari's eyes narrowed, but after a tense moment, he stepped back. Very well, but be aware anyone found aiding this criminal will face severe consequences. After they left, Marcus waited several minutes before releasing Zara from her hiding place. She emerged pale and shaking. Captain Voss, she whispered. He was one of those who buried me. They're not just looking. They know I survived. Marcus began gathering their belongings. Then we can't stay here. I know someone who might help, but we'll need to move carefully. As they prepared to leave their brief sanctuary, Marcus found himself studying Zara's face in the dim light. She'd entered his life as a condemned stranger, but somehow she was becoming something more. The thought both thrilled and terrified him. Ready? He asked softly. She nodded, pulling the hood back over her distinctive features. Where are we going? To find the kind of help that doesn't ask too many questions, Marcus replied, taking Sophie's hand while Emma and Jake flanked, Zara protectively. They stepped back into Haven Station's bustling corridors, 4 humans and 1 fugitive Jayari, bound together by circumstance, but held by something deeper, the fragile hope that mercy might triumph over the cruel mathematics of politics and power. The remote moon of Serenity's Edge hung like a silver pearl against the star-scattered void, its surface marked by gentle hills and crystal-clear lakes. Marcus guided his transport toward a small settlement nestled in a valley between 2 ridges, where thermal vents provided natural warmth and energy. Is that smoke? Jake asked, pressing his face against the viewport as they descended. Cooking fires, Marcus replied. bringing them down near a cluster of modest dwellings. The people here live simply, away from the politics of the core worlds. It had been 3 days since their narrow escape from Haven Station. Rico Santos, an old Marine buddy turned smuggler, had provided them with coordinates to this sanctuary, a place where refugees and outcasts could disappear for a while. The journey had been harrowing, dodging JRA patrol ships and jumping between uninhabited systems to throw off pursuit dot as they disembarked. An elderly woman approached from the settlement. Her silver hair was braided with small bells that chimed softly as she walked, and her weathered face held the serene wisdom of someone who'd seen much of life. "Welcome, travelers," she said in accented standard. "I am Elder Senna. Rico Santos sent word you might need shelter." "Marcus Thorne," he replied gratefully. "These are my children Emma, Jake, and Sophie. And this is ... double quotes." He hesitated, glancing at Zara. "I am Zara," the Jari woman said simply, lowering her hood. "I am grateful for your kindness to strangers." Elder Senna's eyes widened slightly at the sight of Zara's distinctive features, but her expression remained welcoming. "All who come in peace are welcome here. Your children look tired, and the little one seems unwell." Sophie had been growing increasingly pale during their journey. Her breathing labored, and her small frame racked by intermittent coughing fits. Marcus had been trying not to show his worry, but the child's deteriorating condition was becoming impossible to ignore. "She's been sickly since birth," Marcus explained. "The stress of travel hasn't helped." Zara knelt beside Sophie, gently placing a hand on the child's forehead. "May I examine her?" "I have some medical knowledge," Marcus nodded, watching as Zara's long fingers moved with professional competence, checking Sophie's pulse, examining her eyes and throat. Her amber gaze grew troubled. "This is more than simple fatigue," she said quietly. "Her lymph nodes are swollen, and there's a distinctive pattern to her breathing. I believe she has Kepler's syndrome, a genetic condition common among human children born on desert worlds." Marcus's heart clenched. "Is it? Is it serious?" "It can be, if left untreated," Zara replied honestly. "But it's also completely curable with the right intervention. The treatment requires a combination of therapies that most human doctors wouldn't think to try." Elder Senna stepped forward. "Our healing chambers use a blend of technologies from many worlds. If you know what she needs ... I do," Zara said with quiet confidence. "But the treatment will take several days, and she'll need constant monitoring." As they settled into the small guest quarters Elder Senna provided, Marcus found himself watching Zara with new eyes. She moved through the space with graceful efficiency, preparing Sophie's treatment area with the skill of someone trained in advanced medical arts. "You're a doctor," he realized. "Biomedical researcher," she corrected, adjusting the settings on an alien-looking device Elder Senna had provided. "I specialized in cross-species genetics and physiology. It's part of why I was able to refuse the marriage my father arranged. Had value beyond my potential for producing offspring." Emma and Jake hovered nearby, fascinated by the strange instruments and Zara's gentle competence. "Will Sophie be okay?" Emma asked, her young voice tight with worry. "She will," Zara assured her, beginning the first treatment cycle. "But she need to rest for a while, and the therapy will make her drowsy." As night fell over the peaceful settlement, Marcus found himself alone with Zara while the children slept. The healing chamber hummed softly, where Sophie lay suspended in a cocoon of therapeutic energy, her breathing already easier than it had been in days. "Thank you," Marcus said quietly, standing beside Zara as she monitored the treatment readouts. "I don't know what we would have done ... Your daughter is precious," Zara replied, her fingers dancing over the controls with practiced ease. "All children are precious. It's something my people have forgotten in their obsession with genetic perfection." Marcus studied her profile in the chamber's soft glow. "Is that really why you refused the marriage?" Because you valued your work over duty? Zara was quiet for a long moment. Partially, she admitted, but also because I still believe, that marriage should be about choice, about finding someone whose soul speaks to yours. She turned to meet his gaze. My people arrange unions based on genetic compatibility and political advantage. They've forgotten that love itself has value. Elena and I met during a colony survey, Marcus found himself saying. She was documenting plant life, I was providing security. She had this way of seeing beauty in the smallest things, desert flowers that bloomed for just one day, crystalline formations in cave walls. She taught me that wonder was worth preserving. She sounds extraordinary, Zara said softly. She was. And she would have done exactly what you're doing, now helped a sick child without thought of reward or recognition. Their hands brushed as Zara adjusted another setting, and neither pulled away. The contact sent warmth racing through Marcus's chest, a feeling he hadn't experienced since Alana's death. Marcus, Zara said hesitantly, what we're feeling, it's natural, but complicated. I know, he replied, his thumb tracing across her knuckles. You're running from one unwanted marriage, and I'm still mourning my wife. The timing couldn't be worse. Yet here we are, she whispered, stepping closer. Here we are, he agreed, cupping her face gently in his free hand. Their kiss was soft, tentative, two wounded souls recognizing something precious and fragile between them. When they parted, Zara's amber eyes shimmered with unshed tears. I never expected to feel this, she confessed. In my culture, attraction is seen as a biological function to be managed, not an emotion to be cherished. Maybe that's their loss, Marcus suggested, pulling her into a gentle embrace. They were interrupted by a soft chime from the healing chamber. Sophie stirred, her eyes fluttering open with more clarity than Marcus had seen in weeks. Daddy? She whispered, her voice stronger. I feel better. Marcus's throat tightened with relief as he knelt beside her. The treatment's working, sweetheart. Zara fixed what was making you sick. Sophie turned to look at the Jari woman with wide, grateful eyes. Thank you for making me better. It was my honor, little one, Zara replied, checking the readouts one more time. You'll need a few more treatment cycles, but the worst is over. Over the following days, as Sophie continued to recover and their small family settled into the rhythms of the peaceful settlement, Marcus watched Zara integrate seamlessly into their lives. She helped Emma with her studies, showing her the mathematical beauty in Jari art. She taught Jake to identify edible plants during walks through the settlement's gardens. She sang Sophie to sleep with haunting lullabies in her native tongue. And in quiet moments when the children were occupied, she and Marcus talked about their hopes, their fears, their dreams for a future that seemed increasingly intertwined. It was Elder Senna who finally voiced what they were all beginning to feel. She belongs with you, the old woman said one evening as they watched Zara teaching the children to make origami from recycled paper. Anyone with eyes can see it. It's not that simple, Marcus replied, though his heart ached with the truth of it. She's still hunted. My children need stability, safety, and they need a mother who loves them, Elder Senna countered gently, which she clearly does. That night, as Marcus and Zara sat outside their quarters watching the stars, she took his hand and spoke the words that had been building between them. I love you, she said simply. I love your children as if they were my own. I know the circumstances are impossible, but I needed you to know. Marcus brought her hand to his lips, pressing a gentle kiss to her paw. I love you too, he whispered. More than I thought possible again. But loving you might mean losing you, and I don't know if my heart can take that kind of loss twice. Then perhaps, Zara said, leaning against his shoulder as shooting stars painted silver trails across the sky, we should focus on what we have right now, in this moment. Tomorrow will bring its own challenges. As they held each other under the vast canopy of stars, Neither spoke of the ship that had appeared at the edge of the system at afternoon sleek, elegant, and bearing the royal insignia of the Jiari Northern Territories. Prince Kale Jitar had found them at last, and their stolen time of peace was about to end. But for now, in the gentle night breeze of Serenity's edge, two hearts beat in rhythm, while three sleeping children dreamed safely nearby, and love bloomed like a rare flower in the darkness between worlds.